Okay. Um, StreamYard said, fuck my drag. So we're not going to be using StreamYard. But I also don't know if this is going to be working properly. I'm going to hope that it is. But um, I don't know. So I think there's more of a lag here with YouTube than there is when you use StreamYard. So that's not going to be fun. But I promised to read this on stream. So far, the only way I'm getting through this book is to do it on stream. So we're going to continue and we're going to hope for the best. But if you can't hear me, I guess I could actually pull it up on my phone. No, I don't want the music app. Thank you, YouTube. No one's going to YouTube to listen. Well, maybe people do. I don't know. Let's see here. My channel. Oh, I like how this is part 2. This is really part 3. That's what I get. You are not super late because I just started. Just I had started this. Actually, I guess I started like 13 minutes ago, but StreamYard crashed, and so we're not on StreamYard. I just finished talking about how I was just okay with the book, and I didn't really have a lot of not super popular, but super positive opinions. I was waiting to make sure people could hear me with this new setup and adjust to the delay that exists with the YouTube. I mean, it exists on StreamYard too, but I think on YouTube it's like a good 30 seconds, and I think StreamYard is like 10. So I guess I will use my tablet to host the timer sections. Let's do that. So, yes, I'm definitely lukewarm about it. I don't think it's the worst book that I've ever read in my life. But to be fair to most books, I don't think any book will ever be as bad to me as like Docile or Gone with the Wind, or even things like what else? A soup. Yeah, nothing is ever going to get close to those. So I think most books in creation are just lucky that I'm never going to feel as bad about them. So I don't think anyone has actually been buddy reading this with me in the stream so far. So I would love to see what people are picking up today while I try and get a timer set up so we can sort of be on the same page together here today. Little Women. Okay, well, I'm happy you're reading that. I could never, will never read that book. So I will enjoy. Uh, I enjoy the movie. What about this? I don't want an alarm. I said timer. Can I edit it? Yeah, I enjoy Greta Gerwig's movie. I might at some point watch other movies based on it, but that book, maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay, that's one of her contemporaries, right? From before her big explosion into the mainstream consciousness. I like that for this is gonna die. We're just gonna make the most of this situation. Technology is not on my side. Okay. Okay, pause. Can we reset? Okay. Not on my side. I'm throwing it around. Mics are falling. just not my day today. We're just not gonna stack it on books again. That was probably a stupid idea. Okay. No, I was saying as much as you hated that one, but I guess you haven't read it. No, I haven't read Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I didn't finish Little Women. I wasn't a huge fan of it. Uh, I tried reading it. It just wasn't for me. But I am ready to go with our first lovely can I talk? What is English? I'm ready to go with our first sprint. So I'm gonna start the timer. I'll see you guys back here in 20 minutes. But that's all I got for right now. What am I doing? So I want to mute this. And then let's start the timer. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. That was. This man got anger issues. Please, no, okay. This is not it. Y'all, I can't stand this man. Oh, there was a bomb. Hello. Let's actually. Hello. Hoping that your first sprint went well. It took me a good second to realize that I had set not a timer for, 20 minutes, but for like 20 hours. So that's how my day is going. Um, read some more pages. I'm on page 279 now. Some things have happened. There's been some developments. Um, Characters in the book are now calling out the fact that Danica and what is her name, Bryce, seemed like they were more than platonic. Maybe that makes me out here being a fetishist. I don't know, but I'm forever going to be bitter about the fact that this was not a sapphic love story. I still get strong Cruel Prince vibes just in terms of how I feel about the world building. Um, but I also just don't think the Fae are for me. I think that when you had authors who were playing with like vampire mythology, I mean, to be fair, this is more than just a Fae story, but when you had authors playing with like Fae mythology or like shifter mythologies, I feel like those are more well known in like popular media, and I feel like every time I pick up a Fae book, the author just expects me to like have this wealth of Fae knowledge that I just don't have. I also continue to feel that the angel mythology is heavily pulled from Christendom, which in this world is not a thing. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess Justinian wasn't real. Was he a Christian? I know it reminds me of like Roman times, and I usually think I don't know. But again, I feel like the world building is pulled from like real life places and just put on a fantasy continent, which I don't understand the purpose of in a story like this that is meant to be urban fantasy. But at this point, almost 300 pages into the story, I just got to get over that. I'm trying to finish Interview with the Vampire. Hopefully, what you just read wasn't as boring as it's been, but I understand wanting to finish something to say you finished it. Like, that's how I felt about Docile. I wanted to finish it to say I finished it. Also, how I felt about Gone with the Wind, funnily enough. So, I'm hoping that it's at least picking up for you and that you weren't as bored. Um, I feel like I've heard some pretty good things about those books by Anne Rice, but I don't know. There's something about Anne Rice I like. She's one of the authors who I really enjoy interviews of her. Like, I enjoy hearing her speak. Sometimes I even enjoy like reading articles she's posted. But none of her books really sound like anything that I'd want to pick up in the near future, at least. So I haven't done that. So there's that one. Make of that what you will. I'm also getting strong Lady Midnight vibes from Crescent City. And I didn't enjoy Lady Midnight while I was reading it. I couldn't really bring myself to enjoy what Cassandra Clare was doing there until the rest of the series let me down. So I don't know what the sequel to this is going to be called. I would assume it's going to pull from one of the other houses that is introduced at the beginning of the thing. And if I had to take a guess, I would assume it's going to be like House of Sky and Breath. I think that would be my guess, although Flame and Shadow might be the sequel. I think either of those could have really pretty covers. I don't know. I would probably pick up the sequel. At this point, I am also hoping that yesterday in the stream, Heather came in and she was like, well, Sarah J. Maas has a history of giving you one love interest in the first book and then switching them out in the second one. And yesterday I said I would hope that Sarah J. Maas wouldn't do that because I think people really like Hunt. I personally was ambivalent about him, but today he again was out here being very, like, I wouldn't say violent. I think violent is it would be a little bit of a stretch. It would be a little bit, like, not what's really happening. But it was an outburst, and it's like the second time he's done this. And I'm just kind of like, I don't need it. I don't need it. not in my life. So I don't know who she could introduce to replace him. But we're also just are very in the early stages of whatever story this could possibly be. I don't really know where it's gonna go past where we are in this first one because much like Lady Midnight, Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood is sort of a murder mystery. We've had, I want to say there was another body in the section that I just read, or there was a definite terrorist attack again. So I don't personally understand the purpose of these terrorist attacks. I'm hoping that the larger story arc isn't about this human terrorist organization. Just because I'm not particularly, I don't particularly care about it because I don't particularly care about any of the world building that Sarah J. Maas has done. And so to have the overarching plot of a series or the duology, whatever it turns out to um, be this situation between the humans and the not humans, I don't really care for. I also don't really care for it in stories where humans and whatever any magical creature you can think of is in this thing, and they seem to be biologically compatible with one another. And so, if you could have a baby with a fairy or a vampire or a shifter or whatever, I don't see the purpose of you trying to eradicate them. I don't know. I also just think that genocide is a very boring fantasy storyline. I don't understand why genocide in fantasy is such a commonly used plot. Like, we get it. They don't get along. They're trying to kill each other. But I don't think anyone is ever just sitting at home going, you know what I want to read? I want to read about genocide. So if you could throw some sex into that genocide storyline, I would appreciate it. I don't know. I think that's a very odd choice. I don't think I'm ever going to understand why authors are out here doing that. But maybe I think that's why fantasy at the end of the day doesn't always work out for me. Um, I think if I wanted to read about genocide, then I would pick up a book in the nonfiction section. I wouldn't go, Sarah J. Maas, tell me about this genocide you got going on here. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Um, I don't think anyone is really out here saying that Crescent City is like genocide. But again, I still have not done any kind of research into what people generally think. Taylor Jenkins Reid, niece is she writing about race and maybe in another life? Isn't that the one where it reminds me of another book that just came out, just the premise, like where they go to like a diner and like she comes home and like the story is in like two different timelines, like where she didn't break up with her boyfriend and one where she did. And then there's like another book that just came out where it's like one timeline where the boyfriend died in a car accident and one where he didn't, and they have to like choose or something. Isn't that what maybe another life is about? I don't know. Um I haven't gone back to read any of Taylor Jenkins Reid's legitimate contemporary stuff. I hopped on the white character asked her black friend if she related better to her black college friends. See, I'm not like I read Seven Husbands and I was not here for it, and for a really long time I swore a really long 2 months I swore off Taylor Jenkins Reid. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to read Daisy Jones. And I really enjoyed Daisy Jones. And Daisy Jones, there was some messed up. I wouldn't say it was messed up because there was the black character in Daisy Jones was very much a side character. I think her name was, I can't even remember, but I know her last name was Jackson. And her last name being Jackson and her daughter doing R&B hip hop situations in the present storyline was the only basis I had for that character being black. But her whole storyline just revolved around at the end of the book, watching Daisy Jones spiral into drug addiction and like not really doing anything to help her or feeling obligated to help her. And I don't like how Taylor Jenkins Reid, I don't like how she writes characters of color. I do not trust her to write characters of color. But I understand in the minority because I know that there are some Latinx people who read Seven Husbands. There are some Cuban people specifically who read Seven Husbands, and they really appreciate the representation in that. So I'm not going to be the arbiter of the Cuban representation in Seven Husbands, but I did not like how Monique also had no connection to being black, even though she had whole ass family members who were black, who refused to identify as. I mean, are there biracial people who are like, don't call me black, I'm biracial? Sure. I'm sure you could go on Twitter right now and find those people. I'm sure I could find those people on a YouTube video. But there's something about that coming from a black person who was like, I'm not black, I'm biracial. And then there's something coming from like a white woman. And when it was coming from a white woman named Taylor, it just it just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. So I'm not surprised that there are shades of that in books that she wrote previously, because I think that all of her books are probably written with a very commercial mindset for people of any race or whatever. But I do think, just based on the very limited time that I saw her readership present at the signing, it was a lot of white people. A lot of white people. So I'm not surprised that there are like, even before books that I had read from her, that there were situations that weren't the best when it comes to race. And I won't be surprised if going forward, because I don't see a lot of conversations, or in the past I hadn't seen a lot of conversations about how she chooses to write characters who aren't white in her books. But I do think that because Daisy Jones had so few of them and they were not the central focus, I could appreciate her character work more than I had appreciated it in Seven Husbands, because Evelyn Hugo was a Cuban woman. Her race was on every page, and so there was constant, like, Celia, the love of her life, being supremely past, like, microaggression heavy at best and just flat out racist at worst. So yeah. I enjoyed Daisy Jones. She was a mess. I like Daisy Jones too. Daisy Jones as a character was a mess. The book, I could understand why people don't like it. I could understand the people who read it thinking the book just in itself and not the character was a mess. But I didn't have any expectations for that one. I think other people went into that book with expectations. So the expectations can make a book or they can break a book. And so I wasn't surprised when people didn't like it. I also didn't listen to the audiobook, so I don't really have thoughts on that one. But there is a part of me that it bounces back and forth, where I feel like if a book, for me, the physical book worked. But I think the general consensus was that it didn't, and the general consensus was that it was better as the audio. And I bounce back and forth, where I think that if the book works better as an audiobook, then the story might not have been told in the right medium. But I don't know how to really articulate that in a way that makes sense to other people, I think. So I just don't talk about the Daisy Jones audiobook. I just know that there's no way I could have listened to that and understood what was going on in that story. I just can't handle that many narrators, but I think I'm the only person that thinks that way. So I don't think Taylor Jenkins Reid is going anywhere anytime soon. I think that she already had like 4 books out before Evelyn Hugo blew up. Now both of her most recent releases are getting adaptions, so she ain't going nowhere. She gonna continue to rake in paychecks, and I'm happy for her. But I am very interested to see what she comes out with next, because I think that I think she did lose a little bit of the luster because of Daisy Jones, and it wasn't super as well received. But I'm interested to see what happens with her next. But with all of that said, I think I'm ready to do the next sprint. I've rambled on, I feel like, long enough. So I'll do a sprint. And then we'll come back. I'm hoping. I still haven't caught up to where I'm meant to be. I still have a good, like, 40 pages to catch up to where I was supposed to start today. I don't think I'm ever going... Ever. I don't know if I'm actually going to get to page 480 today. That's so far in the future. I still have quite a chunk to read. Quite a chunk to get to page 480. So I'm ready to do another sprint. Hopefully at least get to where I was meant to start today. So by the third sprint, our last sprint, I won't be as far behind. So let me get this guy set up. Pull out the kickstand. We actually have 20 minutes on the clock this time. Yes, 20, unless you guys want to do, yeah, 20 minutes. 20 minutes, nice and simple. Don't have it set for 20 hours this time. Not that slow. So I'll see you guys back here in 20 minutes. Happy reading. I hope it gets better. Okay, she really is desperate. Okay. So I'm on page 324. So 4 pages into the 160 that I'm meant to read today. So I have 154 to go. Obviously, we'll not be getting through all of that during the next sprint, but we're gonna cross that bridge when we get to it. As for thoughts on what I just read, I like most of it. Like, it's not that how do I put this? Like, it's not bad. Like, nothing that I've read really has been bad. It's been fine, and it's still fine. There's still. I think we're finally getting to the point where I care about the characters a little bit more. I feel some of it I still don't really care about. Some of it I still am just never gonna be here for. A lot of it actually I'm just never gonna be here for. But that's just the way the story is. So with all of that aside, it's fine. How many times can I say that one? There were some major developments. I'm still really confused about why. I mean, I know that the reader often has information that characters in the story doesn't have, and I can understand that there's some benefit to it, but I really don't understand why Bryce's parentage is such a big secret, because it's never been a secret from the reader at all. I think that from the moment we started talking about Bryce's parentage, it was very easy and clear to understand who was meant to be her parent. And so the fact that it's gone on for so long in the book where I'm just kind of like, I don't get it. Like, not only was it hinted at very early on to the reader, it was confirmed very early on for the reader in case you hadn't guessed it. And so I don't understand, one, why no one else seems, like in the narrative, seems to have guessed it, because so far it's like the easiest mystery that we've had. And secondly, I'm still not that compelled by the actual mystery that we're meant to be solving here, of these deaths, of who has this magical artifact that's important to the Fae. Neither of those storylines I feel is particularly engrossing. I guess that's the word I want, is engrossing. So I think I just want something to be revealed. And I think that revealing Bryce's parentage is the easiest thing that they could reveal, and the fact that we're not gonna do that, I'm just confused. I don't get it. I don't understand what the story gains from keeping it a secret. We've also, I think that we're meant to be having some kind of relationship build-up between Hunt and Bryce, but I think that it doesn't quite make sense to me. I understand that in this world, to become immortal, there's like a ceremony called the Drop, and it's very, like, you can die doing it. And it's typically done with people who are very close to the person going through the ceremony. But we know that you can get like a government official to do it with you. And even if, Bryce wanted to do it with Danica, and Danica's dead now, so that can't happen. The idea of this like forced proximity because Hunt is going to be her bodyguard, all of this just, like, I think that it just feels very contrived. That element in particular feels like something that you would find in a YA novel. It just feels like the simpler solution would literally just to have her do the drop, because then we've already established that Bryce can make the drop, one, because not every half human, half whatever can do it. Some of them are cursed with having a normal life. Well, cursed with a normal lifespan. I even think that some magical creatures have the same thing where it's like, you're just not going to have, we know that Bryce, if she did the drop, she would be immortal in the rules that immortality exists and that we've set up. she would be able to, like, the fact that the bombing happened a couple of pages back in the last sprint wouldn't have been as big a deal because she likely would have been able to survive that. And so a lot of these decisions just don't make sense to me. And I understand, like, oh, I wanted to do this super special thing with Danica, and Danica's never going to be able to do it. Like, logically in my brain, like, I can process the fact that you wanted to do it this way. You can no longer do it that way. But I feel at the end of the day that it just doesn't make sense not to have this character do it. Like, there is a system in place, a mechanism in place to have this character be moderately more safe, to allow her to continue to be, I don't want to say reckless, but to continue to investigate in the manner that she wants to investigate things, to live her life in a way that she wants to live her life. But we're not going to let her utilize the mechanism. Instead, we're going to have this male character, Hunt, interrupt her life because she doesn't want her brother to be the bodyguard. We're going to have Hunt, like, be weird so we can have... It just feels like a way to give us Hunt backstory and Hunt development and, like, slow burn this relationship that I just don't care about. Like, I don't care about Hunt personally at all, aside from the fact that he keeps talking about his dick game. So I hope his dick game is really strong, because to me, Bryce getting that strong dick game is still the major conflict in the novel, because she still hasn't gotten it yet. So why I need his perspective is I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about Rune's perspective. I barely care about Bryce. So it just feels like ways to have these other characters be involved that I'm just not invested in. And so I would much rather see Bryce make the drop. And even after she made the drop and was functionally immortal, I think that you could still have Hunt be like this Forks proximity trope, I guess, if you really wanted it to be there. I just don't see his perspective, like his chapters, his moments don't really add a lot for the story to me. So I'm okay with leaving them behind, to not having them. But Sarah J. Maas seems to want them. Her editor seems to want them. They got included in the final product, so I think they're meant to add something. And I'm just not reading carefully enough. I'm not invested in him enough to see what he's adding. I hope that changes at some point, because I'm 300 pages into the book, so we're pretty far in there. It's not like it's an insignificant portion, and I'm having these feelings. Like, this is a pretty significant chunk of the book. To still not care about the love interest that you've established for us to have and theoretically to care about. So that's everything that I have thoughts on. But at the end of the day, even with all of those things that sound really negative, I still think the book is fine. I still think that it's an okay read. I still am not mad at it. I just am, I guess, confused. I don't know, unimpressed maybe. Maybe that's the better word. I'm unimpressed. Still getting major Cruel Prince, which, again, I don't think an adult series should give me that feel. I don't know. I think part of me is also annoyed at it being an adult hardcover because it's an adult hardcover price. I mean, this is the Waterstones edition, so it was already going to be more expensive just from shipping alone. But I think that the fact that people had to pay $30 to read this, I don't think it's a $30 book. I do not. I think that, an $18 price point, because I think that's what, like, a Cassandra Clare hardcover is, or like a $22, sure. But, like, damn near $30 for this? Utilize your library. Every time I think about the fact that this is an adult book, and, like, I understand that there are adult themes of, like, sex and drug use. Um, and it's not a story about finding yourself, but it reads so much like Queen of Air and Darkness that they could sit on the same shelf and occupy a similar space. And I don't even think you have to age down your characters. Christina Riccio's book, Again But Better, has like a 23-year-old protagonist, a 22-year-old protagonist. Her second book has a 20-year-old protagonist and an ugly ass title. I'm not gonna get into that. I think that I feel really bad for Christine on that one, because I don't think that was her. I don't think that was. I don't know. I don't know the story there, but I don't. I feel bad for her. But you can have a character as old as Bryce is in a young adult novel and not have it be about finding yourself, because Queen of Air or the Dark Artifice is already established. That's not a finding yourself narrative. Um, it's also a fantasy murder mystery. I just don't understand. I think that's really where the disconnect is for me. Um, which isn't entirely fair, because it's not like I'm out here reading tons and tons and tons of adult science fiction, and adult uh, fantasy. But when I think about it in relation to Steel Crow Saga, which is a very similar vibe in terms of it's more technologically advanced than your typical fantasy. It's again more urban with high fantasy elements. I think that Paul Kruger just pulled that off in a way that Sarah J. Maas isn't. And maybe that's also hampening my overall enjoyment, because I think that his character work was really great. I think I was able to be immersed in the world he created in a way that Sarah J. Maas, I guess, is not connecting. I think that there's something about the way the technology is implemented and the way that she's building the world that they just feel at odds with each other, and they're like battling it out. And I feel like there's two separate aesthetics, and the aesthetics aren't meshing. And I think that Paul Kruger was able to take technological elements. I mean, it was also much earlier. It's more like a 1920s, or like there's no cell phones, no internet type vibe. Whereas here, the aesthetics are so at odds with each other that between trying to figure out the world and try to figure out if I care about these characters, there's just too much going on for me. And then people are dying. Like, we're trying to find out why these people are dying, who's killing these people. I will say that that element of the story, I guess, is a little. It's well done in the sense that I don't know who the fuck is doing this, but I also don't really feel like I'm getting a lot of clues. Like, I don't feel like I'm really meant to be playing along here. I felt the same way about Lady Midnight. Like, I didn't really ever feel like I was meant to piece together the mystery that Cassandra Clare was weaving. And again, I feel that here. Like, I don't think that I'm meant to piece together who is doing the murders, why these murders are happening. I have a vague idea that these murders are connected to the horn that was stolen at the beginning of the book, and I felt that way before our main protagonist did. But I don't know the connection there. I feel like there's a connection between the horn being missing and Bryce as a half fae and why she fell out with her father. Like, I feel like all of that is meant to be building to something, and I'm kind of interested in that. But because I'm getting like nothing, I'm getting like no energy from anything that's happening, I'm not fully invested in what is happening here. So that's everything I have to say. It's a lot. I'm still very much working through and trying to understand my thoughts on this one, but I don't know. At this point, I still don't think I would recommend people to rush. I mean, the book's been out for like a month almost at this point. But I don't think if you haven't picked it up yet, you're missing out on much. I don't think that part. Um, but I'm gonna go ahead, set up the timer for the last sprint. I'm gonna try to get through these pages. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna set up the timer. I'm gonna mute myself. We're gonna do one last sprint because I'm pretty sure that this might die during the sprint because the battery was already low before we even started. Last sprint, then I'll be back here. We'll chat for a little bit, and you guys know the drill by now. 15035. Okay, 10 minutes. So, hey Siri, set a timer for 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes and counting.
Okay, so got to page 365, so that's what, 35 pages to page 400, and then another 80 pages. It's like 120 or so pages. Is that right? That can't be right. 115 pages. I still technically have to read that I'm going to try and get to at some point later today / this evening. Um, I don't know. Problem for future Monty. It's also probably a lie that I'm going to read those 115 or so pages because I didn't pick up. Did I pick up the book again yesterday? I did not. On Monday, I did, though. On Monday, I read a little bit after the stream. But I'm going to try to. I'm going to try and get some more done because I do want to finish this book on Friday at some point, but it's looking like it's realistically going to happen on Saturday, which is still fine. It's still fine. As for what happened in this, well, I think I read like 40 or so pages. It was like, again, like, this book is painfully fine. Like, there are moments where I'm really done with the book, and then I'm just kind of like, you know what, this probably isn't as big a deal as I'm mentally making it out to be, and so I'm just gonna move on. I'm gonna take it in, I'm gonna be annoyed for a moment, and then I'm gonna move on. I think that's probably the healthiest way to go about it, for my mental health and for making my future review as fair to the book as it can be. So again, the book is just painfully average, just painfully average. And I think that's kind of like a running theme for this year. It's just these fantasies I'd be picking up are painfully average. Um, Luckily, or I guess unluckily, I'm kind of stuck with the books that I own for the foreseeable future. And so hopefully, whatever I pick up after this will no longer be painfully average. So I don't really have a lot to say about the section I just read. So if you guys have any questions in the chat, if you have any comments on the section that you were able to read, I'm happy to talk about it, happy to experience that with you. But otherwise, I think I'm gonna go because I ain't got nothing else to say. Like, I didn't have any topics prepared to discuss. I guess we could talk about briefly the book Twitter confessions page that was just a bunch of racism and Islamophobic comments. There were some people that I think one, I think the whole Twitter, I think at this point it's been like shut down and reported and blocked, and I don't foresee it coming back anytime soon. Um, I don't know what people are discussing about it because I've been here with you guys for the past hour reading, And before that, I was out getting Starbucks. To be fair, I was getting lunch at the school drive-through for the cousins, so they don't I don't have to cook anything for them. And since I was already out, I went to Starbucks. So I feel a little bit less guilty. So I think in the time that I was doing all of that, the page was shut down. But before we're shut down, I did happen to see it, and it wasn't even like I could be surprised that people on book Twitter were out here being racist and the Islamophobia, I guess, was kind of a surprise. Um, not because I don't think Islamophobia is like rampant in the world, but I feel like I just don't see a lot of it because I'm not a Muslim person, so no one's coming to me with that energy. Um, so I guess that part was the part that I found the most surprising. But I think the response that I thought was the most surprising when I was setting up before I went live earlier was like this idea that the account and all of the confessions had to be coming from a single person because of how they were worded. And I'm not out here being any kind of linguistics expert. I'm not out here to read into the writings of anybody's tweet. I read every tweet at face value. I assume some tweets are more joking than other tweets. I use my context clues, but I'm not out here like going to be like, well, all of these confessions sound the same, and all of the wording in these confessions is the same, and all of these confessions are about the same three people. So, and I've never heard of none of the people in these tweets I had ever fucking heard of. So I'm not gonna be out here like, oh, I've never heard of these people. It has to be a single person. I refuse to believe. Like, I think that to fall into that line of thinking, even if it is like statistically accurate or whatever, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not breaking the shit down. I'm just gonna be out here with the mindset that there is more than one person in the bookish community on book Twitter, on Bookstagram, on BookTube, on just general life who isn't invested in any of these spaces that carries these similar thoughts. Maybe not about these particular creators, right? Like maybe not about that, right? But I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's just one person. Like only one person could think this way. Because I'm not out here to like give free passes to anybody else. Not out here to give free passes to the 13 anonymous people, the 13 anonymous tweets that got sent out before the account got shut down. Like, not my place. Not gonna find me doing that. Like, it could be just one person, but I don't believe that person is alone in their thinking. I think there might be one person who is stupid enough to do an anonymous Twitter confession page and tweet out their ignorance behind, some anonymous mask. But I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, there's only one person in the community who has that kind of thinking. You can tweet out all of the, oh, books make you a more empathetic person. Not gonna be me. I'm not like at this point in 2020, after all of the discussions that we've had, after all of the people who have routinely been out here showing their ass, and you want me to co-sign your tweet that it's probably one person? No, no. It might be one person on this particular account, might be one person who's writing all the confessions. Sure, I don't know. They're anonymous. Like, I'm not gonna waste my energy trying to get to the bottom of who is it, how many people are it. I'm gonna go with the assumption that it's more than one person because we've had more than one person out here showing their ass. So I'm not out here to be like, yeah, it's just one person. We can move on. It's a blip on the page. Oh, it's April Fool's Day. No, none of that. Not gonna be my energy. So I guess that's how I'm ending this stream. Um, there ain't nothing to link to in the description because, like I said, the page is shut down. If you were on book Twitter on this day, maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't see it. Maybe somebody at Guru Gossip are out here with receipts, but I'm not out here, like I said, to be like it's a one person problem because I think that the bookish community, the book Twitter, I mean, in my circle, I've seen people out here condemning it. I'm not saying there aren't people condemning what was being said. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that this is an everybody problem, but I think that it's been well established that we got more than one person who has shown their ass in the multiple conversations that we've had surrounding various topics of diversity, various issues in the community that stem from this similar topic. Um, for me to be like it's a one person problem. So I ain't got no solutions other than like if you want to be a racist, maybe you should do it on your main. Maybe you should do that. I don't think you need to go create a confession page if you want to be racist. Just be proud, stand in it. I think that's more vexing, but maybe that's just me. This is a mess, but this stream is gonna be up. It ain't going nowhere. Thanks for doing some reading with me. I'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place here, same book. Hopefully, I'll be further along. Hopefully, I will actually get to page 480 or closer to 480. So this buddy read will actually be going well. But I'm having a great time. Thanks for being here. Like I said, I'm not gonna do it all over again. But thanks. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be on Twitter. Um, you all know where to find me. But until tomorrow.